Malyan, and I welcome you all to the second session of the workshop on data analysis and visualization using MS Excel, Part 1 Basic. So, just to give you a recap, yesterday in the session, we talked about a lot of data sets, and we also talked about what are the different chart options we have in Excel, and how we can conclude different things and how we can answer different questions from a single data set using different type of charts. So today we are going to go ahead, and this I've already shown you that our aim is to analyze and visualize. So we have already visualized the data which is given to us, whatever the small and large data sets are there. And today we are going to learn some of the analysis options which are there. So the second one, visualization, we are done with. And now we will go ahead and do some hands-on practice in Excel worksheet, which has been shared with you to explore and learn some of the basic Excel functions, both arithmetic and logical. And then we will go ahead and discuss about two of the most important basic analysis tools in Excel, which are GoalSeek and Solver. For those of you who were not able to attend the session yesterday, the recorded lecture has already been sent to you, the link to the recorded session. Please go through it and do the assignment 1. And after today, we will share one more assignment, which is assignment 2 based on this session. And you are supposed to submit that assignment by tomorrow midnight. And also the date of submission of assignment 1 has been postponed to 11 p.m. today. So please submit it. We have already got so many responses and we are happy to see that. I request all of you to submit your responses. So let's go ahead and it's time for hands-on practice. As I said, we have already sent you this data set. I hope you are able to see my screen, so the spreadsheet. This has already been sent to you. So please, if you haven't downloaded it, please download it. And in just 1 minute, we will start with the hands-on practice. So let me just familiarize you all with Excel. What is Excel? So it is a tool which is used to visualize and analyze data. So the visualization part we have already done, and today we are going to analyze what are the data set, whatever data set is given to us. But before analyzing, it is important to understand for you that we have to learn some of the basic functions, or I would say basic operations in MS Excel, so that you are familiar with how you are going to play with data before analyzing it. So this is the menu bar. I already shown you yesterday. So I am again showing you this. This is the menu bar. This is the formula bar. These are the cell numbers. You can see 1, 2, 3, and so on. And these are the cell names A, B, C, D, so on and so forth. So these cell names and cell numbers are going to help you when we are going to do these arithmetic operations. So let's go ahead and look at this first data set which is present here. So let's say these are my categories or variables A, B, C, and D. So I'm supposed to do these operations on these given data. This data set, am I supposed to do these operations. So my first operation is to add A and B. And when I say I'm going to add A and B, I mean the whole column, not just one row. I'm going to add the whole column to the other column. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. So please follow the steps I'm going to tell you. I will also repeat the steps so that you are able to follow them. Yesterday I got some requests that I need to be slow while doing the hands-on practice. So today I'll be very patient and I request you all to be patient with me. So press equal to sign. So the equal to sign in Excel will give you the opportunity to perform some operation. So now we are supposed to add the column D here, which is the variable A, and column E, which is the variable B. So let's try and add the first row elements, which is 1 and 2. So please click on 1 and press the add plus option on your keyboard and add B. And when I click enter, so it performs this basic function of addition. So now I'm supposed to add all these. Okay, so one way to do it that I go one by one and in a similar way, I add all these elements. So let's say if I add D8 and E8 cell and I press enter, so it will give me this particular thing. But when I'm supposed to do this kind of operation in a large data set, it will be impossible for me to perform this function on every cell, to understand. So this is a very small data set. So you might say that I can do it manually every time, but it is not a good idea to do that. So I will say that I click on this one and I drag it all the way here. So when we drag it, so dragging in Excel means it will copy the function, it will copy the trend you are following in the previous one. I'll give you one very good example here. So you see these are the odd numbers, alternative, these are the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on. So if I delete all these, and let's say now I am supposed to add 3 here and 5 and so on. I can add this manually, but now if I click on 5 and I drag this, so what do you think what will happen? It will copy 5 all the way here, but I wanted alternate odd numbers, right? So I have to give Excel a hint that I want to follow this trend. So you have to copy these two, you have to click on these two and then drag it, and Excel will be able to understand that you are following this trend and you are trying to copy the alternate odd numbers in the series. Okay, so this is the relevance of all the arithmetic operations in Excel, because you are going to use these operations in all the analysis you are going to do. So let's go ahead and do the other one, the other column, which is B minus C. So now I'm supposed to subtract B, which is E here, column E, but it is variable B here, and column F. So let's go ahead and do it. Press equal to sign, click on the element here, E7. So this is E in the column E and seventh cell. So you may see it as a grid. So this is the E7 cell on the grid, and then add a minus sign and click on C and press enter. And if you press enter, it will perform this function. Now similarly, you can do this for the other element. Click on E8 here, press the subtraction sign and press F8, subtract F8 from E8. And when I press enter, it will perform this function. Now you can drag this and you will see that you have got these subtraction of the whole column variable B or column E from column F. Now I hope you are able to follow this. If you are not, please I will again repeat this, so please stay patient. Now we'll go to the next function. Now next operation we are supposed to do. So we are supposed to multiply A plus B and B minus C. So since we have already done this, there are two ways to do it now. Now either I can press an equal to sign and I can directly multiply A plus B. I have already calculated. I can press a multiply sign, which is asterisk, and then I can multiply B minus C column and you will get the result. This is one way to do it. Now if I don't want to calculate these two and I directly want to calculate A plus B multiplied by B minus C, and I have this data, so I will press equal to sign and I'll put a bracket. I'll put a bracket and then I will add A and B first. So A and B I added, close the bracket, then multiply, then put an asterisk sign, and then again put a bracket, and we will subtract B minus C. B minus, put a subtraction sign, and then subtract C from B. Now you have to understand what we are doing here and why we are putting brackets. Brackets have a lot of relevance in Excel because one missed bracket may spoil your whole result. So you have to see that what Excel is doing, it is first adding A and B, it is subtracting B and C, and then it is multiplying both the results. You got it? So if we don't add the brackets, let's see what happens. Will we get the same result or not? The result is -9. So let's see if we get the same result. If I remove all the brackets, press enter, I get a 0, which is not the correct result I was expecting. Okay, so you understand the relevance of brackets. So we'll go back, and if you drag all the way here, you will get the result. So dragging is it is a very important thing you need to understand. I hope many of you will be acquainted with this thing already. These are very basic, very rudimentary knowledge of Excel. But I'm telling you this because it's good to brush up your concepts, and also it is going to come in very handy. When we are talking about the other analysis tools. And our next function is a plus b multiplied by b minus c and whole divided by d. So we have to divide this variable. Now we have already calculated this. So we will not go the long route, and we will simply select this one and divide it by variable d. And we got the desired result. And again, we are going to drag all the way down and we'll get the result. So these are 4 basic functions I wanted to show you. Now these were operations. These were not functions. Please understand. And now we are going to see some of the functions, built-in functions in Excel. And 2 of the most important and most simple functions in Excel are summation and average. We are going to add all these elements, and then we are going to also find out the mean of these elements. So again, put a equal to sign. So it will now enable you to either write an operation or use a function from Excel's library. So write sum. So you see that you see the function here sum, and now put a bracket. So it is showing you sum number 1, number 2, and so on. So you can select these numbers. So let's say if I select the first element from variable A, this element from variable B, this element from variable A plus B, this from C, and this from B minus C, and I close the bracket. It will sum only these elements. Okay, so you can see in the formula bar, there's D7, E9, H14, F15, and I16. But it's not my aim for now. I'll put a bracket, and I'm supposed to add all these elements for different columns. So if I drag all the way here, it will select the elements from D7 to D16, meaning that it will select elements D7, D8, so on and so forth, and up to D16. And when I close the bracket, it will give me some of these elements. Now similarly, I can use this function here, equal sign, write sum, use a bracket, and select all these elements. Now close this. You will get some of these elements. Now you can either do this manually again and again, or you can also drag this in this manner in a row, and you will get the function. So you see that equal to sum F7 all the way to F16. Similarly here G7 all the way to G16. So this is one of the most important function in MS Excel, built-in function, which is summation. Next is average. Now we are going to find the mean or average of this data. So let's say here I press the equal to sign. Now write average, use a bracket, and select this data. So now remember, we have already done the sum of this data for column A, and now we are doing the average. So the average of this one is 10. And similarly, the average of column B is 11. And similarly, I can again drag all the way here to get the mean. So this is one thing. Now we have already done the operations, and we have seen two important functions in MS Excel. And now I'm going to show you something which is not very rudimentary. It is somewhat advanced, and you need to understand that because it will save up a lot of your time while doing your analysis. So let's say now if I copy all this data here, so okay, so this is a function, all right. So if I'm supposed to divide this first column by its sum by 100, so I will use a equal to sign. I will select this and I will divide it by its sum. So it will give me 0.01. Now, what do you expect? If I drag it all the way here, will it give me the fractional value of all these elements? So let's see. Let's see for ourselves. It's not giving me, because now if I also delete these for a second, it will not give me any value. And why? Because while we are dragging it all the way here, it is also changing the cell which is being divided. So the denominator cell, which was D17 in this case, it has been changed to D18 for the element which is one row down from the first element. Similarly, it will be changed to the other one and the other one, and subsequently we will not be able to get the values. However, we can fix this one by using $sign. So if I put a $sign here, when I put a $sign here, I am fixing the cell name. I mean cell D. Okay, and when I put a $sign with the number also, I am fixing this particular cell D17 of the whole grid. I'll repeat this again. So I have cell D17, and now I want to divide all these elements by cell D17. So if I add a $sign here, I am fixing the cell name, but I'm not able to fix the cell number. So let's say if I only fix the cell name and I'm not willing to fix the cell number, press enter, and now I divide it. I drag it all the way here. It's not giving me any value, right? So now if I fix it, if I fix the number also, press enter. Now you see, it will give me the desired result. It has divided all the elements by cell D17, which has a value of 100. So I hope you understand the use of $sign to fix the cell element and cell number of the grid. So this is something I wanted to show you for arithmetic functions. Now there is one more logical function in MS Excel which is very important to understand. It is the if statement. So if statement is a logical function which is used to give a output value based on your logical statement, based on your whatever you are seeking. So I'll show you with examples. So these are some of the ions which are given here and their concentration in milligram per liter. So Na plus has a concentration of 100, K plus has a concentration of 108, and so on and so forth. Now, if I say that I want to see if there is a concentration balance in this particular solution. So let's say we have a solution and all these ions are present there in this concentration. So I'm willing to check the concentration balance. So I will obviously add all the cations. So we will use the sum function and take the concentration of all the cations, not anions, all only cations we are taking, and we will sum this. And similarly, we will take sum of all the anions, which are these. So I have this. So you can easily tell me that the concentration balance is not there. However, we want to get an output. So let's say if the concentration balance is there, you want 0 as an output. And if concentration balance is not there, you want 1 as an output. So we will use the if statement. So if is a logical statement. So press equal to sign, and when you write if and open the bracket, it will show you these three things. Logical test. So our logical test in this particular case is if the number or the element of D33 is equal to the element of D34. So if I write D33 equal to D34, you can directly select these elements also. And now press a comma. So now it is asking you, it will return you the value if the first statement is true. So that is why it is called the if logical function. If your first logical test comes out to be true, if there is a concentration balance in your solution, it will give you 0. And then again press a comma, and if not, it will give you value 1. And when we close the bracket, now what do you expect? What should be the outcome? The outcome should be 1 in this case, because our logical test is not fulfilling. Our concentration balance is not there. So it will give me 1 as an answer, 1 as an output. And similarly, you can use not just numbers, you can use other statements. So let's say if I say the concentration balance is there, if the concentration is balance is there, so it will show me the criteria is met. So or the criteria is not met. So if the concentration balance is there, I will say the criteria is met, and if not, I will say the criteria is not met. But remember, you'll have to put the line, whatever you are writing, because it is a string, it is not a number. You will have to put them under double inverted commas. So when I write this and I press enter, it will give me the criteria is not met because the concentration balance is not there. So let me repeat the use of if function. We have all these ions and the concentrations, and we are supposed to see that so somebody has asked you that if the concentration balance is there, you are supposed to give an output of the criteria is met, and if concentration balance is not there, you are supposed to say the criteria is not met. So we have already summed up the cation concentration and anion concentration, which are here using the summation function, and now we are checking the concentration balance. So we are going to use the if statement by putting an equal to sign and if. So the first part of our if statement is our logical test. So our logical test in this case is if the cation concentration and anion concentration are equal. And if the logical test is true, if it comes out to be true, it will return a string of the criteria is met. And if not, it will return me a string of the criteria is not met. And when I click this, it will give me the criteria is not met, which was the desired output. And you can use this if statement for all sorts of data sets but it will only give you binary outputs, either yes or false. I mean, true, false, yes, no, that kind of outputs if statement can provide you. So I hope you are all clear on the arithmetic functions, arithmetic operations here, the use of $sign, but how we are using the sum function and how we are using the average function. And similarly, we have already talked about the if statement. And with this basic knowledge, we will move on to the one of the most important analysis tool, which is goal seek. So the goal-seek analysis in MS Excel is used for back calculation. So when you know the output, you have a desired output, let's say 1,000, and you want to know that how many steps or how much numbers are required to be added to get a value of 1,000. So to do a back calculation, you use goal-seek. I will show you with 3 different examples how we are using goal-seek. And goal-seek, let me tell you, is one of the most important tool for iteration. But its only limitation is that it can only be used for one variable analysis. If you have only one variable in your question, you can always use goal-seek. So example 1 here is, so we have a given data that you are an employee in a company, and your company makes something. So let's say you are making toys, and you must be keeping record of what is the price of 1 unit in your company. So let's say your price is $5 for 1 unit. You are selling it at a price of 5 per unit, and you are selling 100 units in 1 month. So when we calculate revenue, so what will be the revenue of your company? Number of units sold multiplied by price per unit. So we can multiply these two and get your revenue. So your revenue is $500 for 1 month if you are selling 100 units for at a price of $5 per unit. Now your boss asks you that if we want to generate a revenue of $3,000 in 1 month, so what is the number of units that I'm supposed to sell, that we need to sell? Now one may argue that this is a very simple calculation and you can do it by hand also, but it will become very difficult for you when you come across these kind of equations, and then you are asked that what is the value of Q at which your supply price will be equal to demand price, and then you will have trouble to calculate your Q value. So for these situations, so this example is very simple in order to make you understand what is goal-seek analysis, and then we'll go to more complex examples. So now my goal is $3,000, right? And I'm supposed to find how many units. My price is going to be same. My price per unit is not varying, but I'm supposed to generate a revenue of $3,000 in 1 month. Now we'll go to, in the menu bar, you will see there is one option known as data. So please click on data. You will see the question mark on the Excel sheet. Please click on the what if analysis. Click on the second option, which is goal seek. Now goal seek will give you 3 options. So the first one is to set a cell. Now you are setting that cell to which you are aware of the value. I mean, you are aware of the output, right? Which is $3,000 in this case. So you will set this particular cell, which is for revenue, and you will set it to a value of desired $3,000. So you desire $3,000 in 1 month, and now you have to change something. Now remember, you can only set those cells in goal seek which have a function in it. You cannot vary a constant a cell having a constant value. It will not do any kind of iteration. It will only do iteration when you set it to a cell which has a function in it. So this cell revenue has a function which is units sold multiplied by price per unit. Now my price is fixed. I'm not varying my price per unit. So the only variable here is number of units sold. So if I change this one, number of units sold, I will be able to get how many units are required to be sold in order to generate a revenue of $3,000 in 1 month, which is 600 in this case. I will repeat this one. So let's say we will change it to, let's say 20 again, and we have a price of $8 per unit, and we are generating a revenue of 160. Now, somebody tells you that we want to generate revenue of say $1,000, not 3,000, 1,000 this time. So how many units we are supposed to sell if we are not changing the price? We are keeping the price same, but we have to find out the number of units to be sold in order to generate a revenue of $1,000. So again, we'll go to the data in a menu bar. We'll choose the what if analysis. The second option is goal seek. Now we will set our revenue because output is known to us, which is $1,000. So the output cell is revenue, value 1,000, which is the desired value in this case. And we will change the cell, which is units per units sold, because the price is fixed. Now if we click OK, it says that we need to sell 125 units in 1 month in order to generate a revenue of $1,000. So the first question you have answered using goal seek. Now I will make this problem little bit complex. So there is always a cost per unit, right? You are not only selling the unit, you are also making the unit. So let's say your cost per unit is $5. It is one unit will cost you $5 and you are selling it at a price of $8. So the total cost will be equal to number of units you are selling multiplied by cost per unit. So if we multiply these two, we will get the total cost. Now what will be your income or your profit? So your income will be your revenue subtracted from your cost. So if you subtract these two, you will get your profit. So we are going to subtract revenue and total cost. So we got this $375 is your profit in 1 month. Now, if you may have noticed that your cost function and your revenue function and ultimately your income function are all depending on one variable, which is number of units sold. All things are fixed, all other things are fixed. There is only one variable, which is number of units sold. And now you are supposed to find the number of units that must be sold to get an income of $5,000. Now we are asking the income, not your revenue. So we will again go to data. We will use the what if analysis. We will use goal seek. And now goal seek will give you the option to set your cell. Now we are supposed to set the income to $5,000, not revenue, not cost. So we will set our income to a value of 5,000 by changing cell. So if there is only one variable, there is only one thing I can change, which is number of units sold. I will select this, click OK, and it will give me that I need to sell approximately 1,667 units in order to generate an income of $5,000. And similarly, these kind of analysis, complex analysis, you can use using goal seek. If you are aware of the output, you can do a back calculation to find number of things, just like we are finding the number of units sold in this particular case. Now we will move to a more complex example in goal seek. So example 2 says we have it's a 13-year-old boy who wants to save $10,000 to buy a car when he graduates from school. He has a part-time job and can afford to save $100 a month, 5% interest per annum. So please keep a record of the information, whatever is given to you in the question, and then we'll use that information to calculate certain things. So I've already written here that originally our annual rate is 5%. So this is the annual rate, which is 5%. So number of payment periods. Now this boy is 13-year-old, and by the time he graduates, so normally he will be 18-year-old. So the difference between so the number of years between 18 and 13 will be 5, and he is saving $100 per month. So number of payment periods will be 12 multiplied by 5, which is 60. right? And the amount he's saving per month is $100. Now we are supposed to find the total amount saved. Now, here I will tell you a very interesting fact about Excel. You can calculate this. This will be a very complex, not very complex, but you can calculate this using your calculator or different formulas. But there is an inbuilt function in Excel which allows you to calculate the future value or the amount this boy is going to save at this particular rate in this many periods. And if he keeps on saving $100 per month, which is the FV function. So I will write it here. It is the FV function, which is called the future value function. Future value we are calculating how much amount this boy is going to save. And interestingly, you will be amazed to know that there are 53 inbuilt functions you can use for calculating different things, just like the FV function. In terms of accounts, you can calculate a lot of things in Excel. There are 53 different functions. Even I'm only aware about 5 or 6. So you can always explore and find those functions and use them in your daily life for your own purposes. Here, I'm going to show you how you can use the future value function. So you click on the equal to sign and you write FV and open your bracket. Now you can see there are 5 categories: rate, NPER, and your NPER is total number of periods, total number of payment periods, and your PMT, your PMT is amount you are depositing, your PV, and type. Your PV is the amount you are
Right, Ari?
starting with. Let's say we are starting with 0 in that particular account, and we want to know that how much money this boy is going to save after 5 years. And similarly, type will give you, if you choose 0, so it will take it that the boy is depositing $100 at the starting of the month. If you choose 1, then it will take that the boy is depositing at the end of the month. So this is some general information about the FV function, which is no use to you here. I'm only going to show you the goal seek analysis, how we can do. So first we have to choose rate. Now you have to notice that your rate is annual, but your payment periods are in months. So you have to divide this by 12, put a comma. Now we are supposed to select the payment periods. So our payment periods is 60. And now, what do you say? The amount he's saving is $100, but that amount he's depositing to the bank. He's not taking from somebody. So if he's depositing, we'll put a negative sign and put this cell, and then we'll take 0 and 0 because we are starting with 0 as the initial amount in the account and the boy is depositing at the starting of the month. So when I press enter, this will give me an amount that after 60 payment periods at this particular annual rate, and by saving $100 a month, the boy is going to save $6,800.61 in his account. Now, the first question here is we have to find the number of payment periods it will take the boy to save $10,000, because his ultimate goal is to save $10,000 to buy a car. So our annual rate is going to be same. Our payment periods are 60 for now, and amount he's saving is 100. And again, we will use the FV function, and we will use rate divided by 12. Now it's in month. Use the okay, we can use the F28 here, and we are taking the payment periods. We are depositing the amount, and this is our value. Now, what is your goal? What is your output in this case? Your output is total amount saved should be $10,000. Now you know the output, but what is the variable the question is asking you to change? The question is asking you, you have to find the number of payment periods. So now I know that I have to vary the payment periods, and annual rate and amount of saved per month are out of bounds. They should not be changed. So now I can use the goal seek analysis So go to what if analysis, goal seek. Now you set this cell total saved to 10,000. Now we are changing the payment periods. And if I press OK, it has given me a calculation that we have to save for approximately 84 months in order to save an amount of $10,000 if the boy keeps on saving $100 per month at a rate of 5%. Now there are some different things you can do in this example. So let's say now I keep the payment periods same because the boy will ultimately graduate when he's 18, and the bank is not willing to change the amount annual rate. So the payment periods are again fixed, and amount we have to find out. So the boy can always save some extra amount per month in his account, more than 100. So now let's say I use the FB function again. I find the rate, I enter the payment periods, then I enter the amount, and it is the same as this one. Now I want to use the goal seek analysis. So go to the what if analysis, go to goal seek. Now you're supposed to change the total amount saved and make it 10,000 by changing your amount per saved per month, because your payment periods are same and your annual rate is also same. So you are supposed to choose this one, press OK, and it will give me a value that the boy is supposed to save approximately $147.05 per month for 5 years so that he can save total of $10,000 by the time he graduates from high school. So this was one more example of goal seek, where you can use goal seek for different functions in MS Excel. And now we will see one more example. By now, I hope you are well aware of the options in goal seek and you can use it now. So let's see one more example. So here there are two equations which are given to me. The first is for supply price and the second one is for demand price. So now if I calculate the supply price using this equation, so I will tell you one more function, inbuilt function here, which is ln in MS Excel. So you can press equal to and type ln. So it will give you a natural log. Open the bracket. Now you're supposed to write this function. So which is 50 plus 1000 multiplied by q. So your q is varying. Your q is varying from 10 to 150. So you will choose this cell, close this bracket, and add q again. This will give you a supply price. Now we have already learned that if we drag this all the way here, it will give me all the values for different q. So the q here is 20, now the q here is 30, so on and so forth. Similarly, we can calculate the demand price. So the demand price in this case can be calculated by pressing the equal to sign 1000 multiplied by. Now we have encountered one more inbuilt function in Excel, which is exponential function. Now you can type exp, open the bracket. Now minus 0.02 multiplied by your q. Close the bracket, you will get the value. So this is my demand price, and we drag it all the way here to get the value. Now the question here is that at what value of q there will be an equilibrium between the supply price and the demand price. So please understand the question. Let's plot this data and you will understand. So yesterday we learned that we can go to the insert option in menu bar, use the scatter plots to plot this. So now I am supposed to know this value somewhere here, that what is that value where these two prices are equal. Okay, supply price and demand price. There is an equilibrium between these two prices, and we have to find that particular value of q. Now let's keep it aside and find the difference between these two. So if we find the difference between the demand price and the supply price, so this will give me this value. Now our aim, you should understand that our aim is to reduce this difference, the difference between demand price and supply price, to find that value of Q where there will be an equilibrium. So now we go to data, we go to what if analysis, and we choose goal seek, and now we set this cell to a value of 0, and we need to change this cell, not this actually, we need to change Q, because so goal seek has given me that at a value of 106.7251 there will be an equilibrium between the supply price and demand price. So this is the relevance of goal seek. That's how you use goal seek for your analysis. When you have only one variable which is going to vary, and you have a output, you know, you are aware of the output, and you are supposed to know from that output that how much value is required to get there. So you are aware of the destination, but you are not aware how many steps you are going to take. So this goal seek is going to help you with that. So this was all for goal seek, and now we will go to the next tool, which is solver in MS Excel. So please go to the next sheet. We will now use solver to solve linear and nonlinear equations. So I'm going to show you two different uh, applications of solver for two different things. Here we are solving linear and nonlinear equations. So before I start with solver, you have to add in solver because it is not inbuilt in Excel. So you have to go to, please follow the steps, go to file. Those who are using MS Excel, please go to file. You will see a more option or only option for earlier versions of MS Excel. Press more, go to options. You will see there are number of options here on the left side. So go to the second last option, which is add-ins. At the bottom, you will see a manage option, Excel add-ins. So please press on go and tick mark solver add-in and press OK. So if when you tick mark it and press OK, you will see that in the data option you will see you will be able to switch the solver option. Let me please repeat these steps. Please follow. Go to file, click on this more, go to options. Now you will see a number of options here. Go to add-ins, and at the bottom you will see a manage option. Press go and tick mark solver and then press OK. So you will be able to see in data, you will see solver here. So please add in this solver, and I will proceed with the examples. So our aim is to solve these two examples. So first one is a linear set of linear equations, and the other one is a set of nonlinear equations. So my first equation is 4y is equal to minus 3x plus 33, and the other one is 3y equals 2x minus 5. So let me just write it as a function. So my function one will be 4y plus 3x minus 33, and my function 2 will be 3y minus 2x plus 5. So these two are my functions now, and I'm supposed to find the root of these two equations at which both the equations are satisfied. So let's say I write x and y here, and I take any value. So let's take a random value. Let's say if I take 5 for x and 1 for y for now, and we will calculate the value of function 1 and function 2 for these values. So let's say I write function 1 as equal sign. So the function 1 is 4y, 4 multiplied with y plus 3 multiplied with x minus 33. So this gives me a value of minus 14 for these two values of x and y, function 1. And now we are going to calculate function 2. So my function 2 is equals 3 multiplied by y minus 2 multiplied by x plus 5. So this is minus 2 and this is minus 14. Now my aim is to calculate those roots at which function 1 and function 2 are giving me 0. So our aim is to find roots at which function 1 and function 2 are 0. Okay, so now how to use solver. So please go to data, press on solver. You will see this, there are bunch of options here. So first one is set objective, and the next one is to maximum, minimum, or any other value you are willing to set it to. Then you can change the variable cell subject to the constraints, and there are simplex, LP, evolutionary, GRG, nonlinear. There are a bunch of options. So now we are solving a linear simultaneous set of equations. So our objective for now is to set our function 1. Let's say if I choose function 1, I want it to set to a value of 0. I wish to set it to a value of set objective. I've already chosen function 1 and I'm willing to set it to a value of 0. Now I am supposed to change. What cells I'm supposed to change? I want to find these two, x and y. So obviously these two roots are going to change in order to give me a functional value of function of 1 as 0. Now, what is the role of function 2 here? Now, I'm also supposed to find those roots at which function 2 is also 0. But as of now, I've already taken function 1 into account. Now, I'm going to add function 2 as a constraint. So, if you add it as a constraint, you will have to add the cell reference, which is minus 2 in this case. This one, which is G11. You will set it to a value of, you have a bunch of options. You can either set it to less than equal to, you can set it to equal to or greater than equal to. So solver is especially useful when you have when you have multiple variables. So we have x and y. There are two variables which are varying here. So goal seek is out of option. We cannot use goal seek because it can only be used for one variable. So if I set it to 0 and I press OK. Now select a solving method. Now this one is linear set of equations. So we will choose simplex LP method and we press on solve. So you have to keep the solver option, press OK, and you have your values of x and y, 7 and 3, at which both the functions are being satisfied. So I will repeat the steps. We take any random value of x and y, let's say 5 and 1, I'm taking here, and I calculated function 1 and function 2. Now my aim is to find those values of x and y, those roots at which function 1 and function 2 become 0. So I will go to data, I will use solver, and it's good to reset solver every time, otherwise it's going to take some junk values. So if I set my objective, so now let's say if I don't set my objective f1 as 0, I'm going to set f2 as 0. So it is set to a value of 0, and I have to vary these two cells, x and y, and now subject to the constraint. Now my constraint is going to be f1 because I've already set f2 to 0. So if I add it as a constraint, f1, and I set it to 0. And then we use the simplex LP method and solve this. Same values, 7 and 3. These are the roots at which these two functions are satisfied. These two equations are satisfied. So this is how you use solver to solve linear equations, linear set of simultaneous equations. Now we will see one more example where we are going to use solver to solve nonlinear equations. So similarly, if I take x and y, so let's say again we take 5 and 1, and now my function 1 in this case will be 2x square plus y square minus 1, and function 2 will be 0.5x minus 0.5 square plus 2 times y minus 0.25 square minus 1. Now I'm supposed to find those roots, find those values of x and y where function 1 and function 2 become 0. So now I'll calculate function 1 and function 2 using these two roots. These are assumed roots. So you have to start with something. So if you want to start with something, you can take any random values. So let's say we calculate this equal to sine 2 multiplied by x square plus y square minus 1. And similarly, I'll calculate f2, which is 0.5 multiplied by x minus 0.5 whole square plus 2 multiplied by y minus y. So this will come in brackets. Y minus 0.25 whole square minus 1. So I've got these two values, f1 and f2. Now I'm supposed to calculate those roots at which f1 and f2 will become 0. So again, go to data, use solver, reset solver, and now we will set our parameters. So we have to set our objective. So let's say if I set function 1 to a value of 0, and I have to vary these two cells, x and y, and there is a subject to constant. Now my subject to constant will be function f2. So I'll add this f2. This will be equal to 0. And now these two equations are non-linear. So if I use the simplex LP method, it is not going to give me the correct results. We will use the non-linear method. So select the GRG non-linear method and press solve, and you have got your solution, which is 0.3 and 0.9. So these are the two values of x and y at which these two equations are being satisfied. So solver is especially useful to for the optimization problems. So if you are in operational research, it will be very helpful for you to do the optimization problems. So solver, I think, is very clear to you all. You have to set an objective, which was in both cases our function 1, or you can also set it to function 2. You can always set it any other particular value you want to fill in. Then you can change the cells, which were x and y value in this case, and you can add your constants. Then you can use different solving methods and press solve. So it will give you your solution. So this was the first application of solver to solve linear and non-linear equations. Now we will see the other application of solver, which is in curve fitting. So this is one of the example which was given to us in our class, and I'm showing you this because it is one of the most brilliant example to make you understand the application of solver in curve fitting. Now you can why we are doing curve fitting. The first question is this. So we are fitting curves because here we are aware of this equation. This equation has already been established, and we know that it is valid for this type of data. But let's say you are doing some experiment and you get some values. So let's say you get these values, t versus time versus your y. the amount of organic matter degraded. And now you are not aware of this equation, but you are plotting some curve and you have to establish a relationship then. So this relationship can only be established if you are doing curve fitting. So a curve fitting or a trend line will give you your relationship between your data. So what is the relationship between the data you are recording? So there are two types of curve fitting, linear curve and non-linear curve. We will see both the examples using this particular example. So we are given that the biochemical oxygen demand is a measure to establish the levels of biodegradable under aerobic conditions organic matter in wastewater. The drop in dissolved oxygen level in wastewater is used as a surrogate to measure the level of BOD according to the following equation. This equation is given to us. The reaction has often been stated empirically as first order with respect to organic matter. So it is said that it is a first order reaction. And we are given a bunch of information here. One equation we have is this: L is equal to L naught exponential minus KT, where L naught is ultimate BOD, K is rate constant, and Y is your amount of organic matter degraded, which is equal to L naught 1 minus exponential minus KT. Now, this is our given data. This is given to us. And the first part of this question says that we have to use Thomas slope approximation to estimate ultimate BOD and the first order empirical rate constant. So we have to find out L naught and K, and Thomas plot slope approximation is given to us, which is given by this equation: T over Y whole 1 by 3 equals L naught K whole minus 1 by 3, and so on. So does this can you do a linear curve fitting using this data, using this equation? You have this data of time and Y. Now you have to do a linear curve fitting using this equation. So does this equation look familiar in some manner? So please remember the equation of a straight line, which is Y is equal to mx plus c, where y and x are your variables, m is your slope, and c is your intercept. So my y in this case is t over y whole 1 by 3. My x is t. The slope will be k 2 by 3 whole over 6 L naught 1 by 3. And my intercept will be L naught k minus 1 by 3. So let's calculate. We will calculate t by y whole 1 by 3. So we have already learned how to write functions in arithmetic operations in MS Excel. So we will write equal to sign, put a bracket on. We will divide t over y, and we will use the power option to put a power of 1 by 3. And this is my value. Now I will drag it, and I've got these values. So what am I supposed to draw the plot between? So t is given to me, which was my x in this case, and this I've calculated. So this is my y. So I will draw a scatter plot first. So if I go to insert and draw a scatter plot, it will look like this. Fine. So this is my scatter plot. T is on the horizontal axis, time, and t by y whole 1 by 3 is on the vertical axis. Now go to this plus option, which is the option to add chart elements, and you can add your trend line. Yesterday also I told you how to add your trend line, and you can go to more options, scroll down, and you see these two options: display equation on chart and display the R squared value on chart. So please tick these two, and you will see that you have got your equation as well as your R square value. Now your R square is the coefficient of determination here, which is a statistical measure of how close the data are to the fitted regression line. So my fitted regression line is this trend line in this case. So my correlation factor is really good, which is 0.97 in this case. And using this particular equation we have got from the chart, we can calculate K and L naught. So I want you all to try and calculate K and L naught. The solutions to this question will be provided to you, but I want you to try first. There is only some simple mathematics required, and I hope you are able to do it. So we'll go to the next one. This was linear curve fitting. Now we will go to the next one, which is the non-linear curve fitting. So now we have K and L naught, and we are supposed to do a non-linear regression to estimate ultimate BOD and first order empirical rate constant K. Now these are my given values for T and Y. These are given to me, and we have already seen an equation here that Y equals to amount of organic matter degraded, which is equal to L naught multiplied by 1 minus exponential minus KT. So you can estimate this Y using this equation, but you need some value of L naught and K to start with. So we will start with K as 0.3 and say L naught as 3. So we will calculate this value. So our equation is L naught 1 minus exponential minus KT. So equals L naught multiplied by 1 minus exponential minus of K into T, and I've got this value. So I have to fix these two cells, because if I drag it, then it will show me an error, because it will go all the way down here. So I will fix these two cells, which is L naught and K. I've already fixed, and I will drag it here. Now I will calculate the normalized error. Now normalized error is your estimated value minus your actual value divided by your actual value whole square. Because some values may be more than your actual value, or some values may be less than your actual value. So we are taking normalized error, which is the square of your relative error. So we will drag it here, and we have got the normalized error. Now we will add this error, and I will show you the relevance of adding this. So we add this whole, and we have got the sum of normalized error, which is 0.25. Now we are supposed to find the value of K and L, and we have already seen that how we can use solver. So what do you think? What we are going to minimize in this case? We are going to minimize the normalized error, the sum of normalized error, so that the difference between the estimated value and the actual value is small as possible. So we go to the data, we go to solver, and we first reset it, and then we set our objective of, we take this cell, the summation of normalized error, and we are going to minimize it. Our goal is to minimize it, not setting it to 0. We are trying to minimize this error, and we are changing these two cells, K and L naught. And you have to set it to GRG nonlinear, because it is a nonlinear equation, and we will solve this. And we have got our values, which are 0.259 and 2.75, and you will see, if you calculate values of K and L naught in this question, you will see that these two values are really close to those two values. And I want you to appreciate the fact that solver is solving this for a nonlinear equation. Here we are creating it for a linear equation. And we will also calculate the R square, so that you understand the that we are very close. The actual values are very close to the estimated values. So you can calculate R square manually by using the RSQ function. Press RSQ. You will take these values, which are your actual values, press comma, and you can take these values. So this will give you your difference between the actual and final, your estimated values. So our R square is 0.98, which is better than the linear plot. So we understand that our non-linear plot here in this case for this particular equation is more valid as compared to the linear plot, linear regression. And let's plot this one so that you understand. So if we plot time versus estimated value, and we plot a non-linear curve. So I have plotted my estimated values. Now actual values have been given to me, which are taken by experimentation. These I am calculating from the equation. So let's fit this data also in this particular chart and see how many data points are there overlapping. So let's right click on this, go to select data. So you can add data here, and this will be actual. We are putting the actual. So on x-axis there will be time, and on y-axis we are taking the actual degradable organic matter values. So press OK, and you can change this to this. So you see that you can understand that your estimated values and your actual values are very close by. So your equation or your model that you have created is valid for this particular case. So this was all about non-linear curve fitting using solver. Similarly, we can use solver for solving non-linear and linear equations. We have seen that we can use goal-seek when we have only one variable, which is one variable, and we know the output. So we can back calculate some things and find out the values. And we have seen the arithmetic functions and some of the logical functions like if. So I think that's all for today. I really appreciate your time and effort. And thank you so much for being patient listeners. And I thanks the Postgraduate Academic Council for giving me this opportunity. So I close this session here. Thank you.